We began. The recording started. So hello today. We are in the history of the Jewish books, session number 4, I believe. And this says today we're talking about the Talmud. Let's share our PowerPoint here. Okay. And today we're really talking about the book, the book of the Jewish people. Okay, it is the main book that has been studied for centuries by thousands of Jews and thousands of scholars, and today it's studied as well by thousands, tens of millions of people all over the world. The Talmud literally means a teaching. Okay, like lilmod, lelamed. Okay, is the central text of rabbinic Judaism and the primary source of Jewish religious law and Jewish theology. Okay, so it is really the central text, and it is therefore, it makes it really the most important and the most authoritative. Until the advent of modernity, in nearly all Jewish communities, the Talmud was the centerpiece of Jewish cultural life and was foundational to all Jewish thought and aspirations, serving also as the guide for the daily life of Jews. Okay, Jews would wake up in the morning, they would study Talmud. If they went to yeshiva, they would study it all day. If not, they would study something, before they go to work, and sometimes they would do it after. As well, and if they didn't have time during the week, they for sure would do it on Shabbat. They would go. The rabbi would always give a lesson on the Talmud, actually, I'm thinking maybe starting something like that next year.
Rabbi, in addition to that, every time you said the morning Shacharit service, you had a Talmudic session as part of that, which I suppose the rabbis could enlarge on that and discuss it.
Yeah, there would always be like a lesson before also, or after, and they still have it. The Talmud is not just the Jewish law. It's also, as it says here, Jewish thought. Okay, so there's a lot of Jewish thought in it. And also Agadah, which is the customs and Jewish ethics, etc. So the Talmud includes the teachings and opinions of thousands of rabbis on a variety of subjects, including halacha, that's Jewish law, Jewish ethics, okay, philosophy, customs, history and folklore, and many other topics. Okay, so it's really very diverse, and it really has a lot in it. The Talmud
is Kabbalah included in the Talmud?
No, there's some mysticism in it, but very, very little, and that's not really the point of the Talmud. For example, in the tractate of Brachot, the ninth chapter talks about dreams and the interpretations of dreams, and if you dream of this, what it means, and if you dream of that, what it means. Okay, and that's somewhat mysticism, but a lot of it also has a lot of folklore. It also has a lot of superstitious beliefs in it, because it's really written also at a time where superstitions was very strong. Okay, and it also has medical advice, which we probably will not follow today, because that's kind of like the medical advice of that time of 2,000 years ago. Yeah.
Is there a formal book of law within the Talmud?
No. That's a very good question, which I'll touch on in a moment. But the Talmud really has it all. It's all mixed up, okay, and that's what makes it a little bit harder to read. It's not a systematic book that has, one volume on philosophy, one volume on Jewish law, one volume on Jewish customs, etc. It's all mixed in one page. You can have all these things, okay, and we'll see that also how that interacts. So it makes it somewhat harder to understand that. So people came later on and took out all the parts that are Jewish law, and they compiled all of those into one book, which is a very, very hard task to do, because sometimes there are various opinions, okay, and there's sometimes conflicting opinions, and sometimes it's not clear what is the ruling on a certain debate. It's a very, and this is something, rabbis are still debating till today. And it's also it's also what's very appealing about the Talmud, and what attracts people to study is it's because it's all mixed up, and because it's eclectic, and because it has so much richness in it. So people dive into it, and really, it's like once you're in it's called the Sea of the Talmud. Okay, it's like that's the expression. Yam shel Talmud. Yam is sea and of the Talmud. So once you jump in the ocean, really, of the Talmud, you are really, you're swimming, and there's so many things, and there's like this beautiful, a dolphin, and then there's like, these beautiful corals, and then suddenly there's a shark, and and you gotta manage all of that, and it captivates you, and you wanna go more and more in it. The amount of books that are written on the Talmud is just enormous, and it's not ending. It's like it goes on and on. It's like a living document in many ways. Yeah.
I thought one of the brilliance of the Talmudic rabbis were, and on what you were saying in the Talmud, they knew everything about everything. And so when they got into a discussion, they're pulling it from here, they're pulling it from there, from everywhere. And, unless you're a scholar, you wonder, where did this come from?
Yeah. Yeah, you need, some people say if you have attention deficit disorder, it could be difficult to study the Talmud, because you go with all these topics, you jump from one place to another. Some people say, oh no, on the opposite, it could be a very good thing, because that's the mind of someone, with like attention deficit disorder. They jump from one topic to the other. So it's like, oh yeah, I understand why they're talking about this now and this, and like it's just fascinating. Yes.
How long was the conglomeration of the Talmud written? I mean,
Yeah, that's what?
Was it like over a century they were writing this?
No, it was over 3 or 4 centuries. Okay, so there's like 300-400 years of compiling all the stuff of the Talmud, and there's like a system of how there were debates going on, and they memorized it, and they probably wrote some parts of it. But then at a certain point, just like we talked about the Mishnah last week, that at the year 2019, someone's halted and said, wait, we need to write down all these opinions. So the same with the Talmud. Around the year 550, okay, someone stopped and said, it was like his name was Rav Ashi, okay, and he said, wait, we gotta close this, ongoing debate in Jewish history, and we gotta compile it, and this will be considered like a one literature piece. So until that point, no one saw this as a Talmud. They just saw it like as ongoing debates. But at a certain point, someone decided to summarize all of it and to bring all of this into fruition in an extraordinary way. Okay, and it probably took another 200 years for it to take its place and to be codified as this is the text of the Talmud, and you cannot add anything in addition. There's like a mysterious period in time from the year 550 until around the year 750. I'm not very exact with the dates, but that we don't know exactly what happens with this Talmud. We feel that there might be some inside editors that we don't know about, that they kind of like, polish things. So, if there's a contradiction between one place and another, they try to maybe work it out, or at least, make sure that it's like all presentable. And then only in around the year 750 do we see people referring to the Talmud as a Talmud And we also realize there's a codified text and no one's gonna change it now anymore.
Is there a certain part of the Talmud you read at a certain time of the day or the year?
Yeah, there is a project called the Daf Yomi, the daily page. Okay, a Talmud goes like by pages. Okay, and each page has two sides. Okay, this is one side of a Talmud page that has two sides. Okay, and there is a system where you could finish reading the entire Talmud, and if you read a page a day, in 7.5 years.
Oh, my God.
Okay, so I'm in the middle of that project. Okay, we're in our 4th year, the 5th year, and in the entire Jewish world is studying today the same page, which is Sanhedrin, page 76,
All right,
75. Okay, so the entire Jewish people, anyone that's on that project is studying the exact same text, and they're like, Facebook groups that discuss the page and talk about it and, enrich each other, and very interesting stuff going on there. So everyone's like on the same page, as they say.
Is
I was gonna ask a
any
question,
kind
but I
of, if
forgot
you're
it.
looking for something specific, can you find it?
Yeah, if you Google like on YouTube the daily page of the Talmud, you will find hundreds of commentaries in English. I'm not talking just about Hebrew. If you want to, in any language, but if you want to learn now on a daily basis, like 15, 20 minutes a day, there are rabbis in New York and Los Angeles, all over the world that are teaching in English. It's on YouTube. If you want to read it, you would read it. You would do it. It's like, it's like 20, 30 minutes a day.
She means if you have a problem in Jewish law, a question in Jewish law, how do you get to that question? Or, for instance, it's medical and you want to go to this specific medical
Oh.
discussion.
Index.
Yeah.
Yeah, an index.
Yeah, there are a lot of indexes to the Talmud. There are a lot of indexes as well. Yeah. But today you would do it all on Google. You would just say, what does the Talmud say about,
So there are,
medicine, and
Rabbi,
the AI would bring it up.
could you just discuss the timeline from Mishnah, Gemara, Rashi, and the Tosafot, and
Yeah,
did.
no,
That was a big thing.
yeah, but not today. But that's on the timeline,
when you're talking about the
Yeah.
Talmud, I'm trying to figure out
That
what
timeline.
parts of it, as far as time frame goes.
So I'm talking about the time frame that the Talmud's written from the minute the Mishnah is codified, 219.
Okay.
Okay, or maybe a little bit before that, until the year around 550, when the Talmud is like compiled and edited, redacted. Yeah.
It must have taken a year for some commentary to come into the central area.
A year, many more years, many years.
No, I don't, well, I mean, travel. So one rabbi somewhere writes his commentary, his
Oh,
thoughts.
yeah.
It could take a year to get that
It could.
into.
Yeah, right. But there were messengers going between the communities all the time.
I don't want to sound dumb. The
No,
Talmud
that your
is
question is good.
one book, or is it made up of all of these?
Yeah, I'm gonna explain this, okay? Here, this is the next thing, okay? So the
Question,
Talmud,
may I have
Sorry?
question?
yes,
Yes, good morning, everybody. So Talmud and Gemara, this is the same thing?
yes, and this is what I'm gonna explain. Do you see the screen?
Yes.
Okay, here, this is my next thing. The Talmud is constituted by the Mishnah, a written compendium of the oral Torah, and the Gemara. That's what you're talking about, Sophia, okay? A commentary on the Mishnah and related Tanaitic writing, okay? So when you look here at this part, okay, so you see this part here, that's the Mishnah, and then you see in the middle, it says Gimel Mem, kind of like in the middle of the page, Gimel Mem and an apostrophe,
Oh,
okay? You see that?
yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, that's Gomorrah.
Yeah,
Ah,
exactly, that's the Gemara. Right? So the first part is the Mishnah and it's in Hebrew. And right afterwards is the Talmud part. Okay, here I have a photo of this for people
It's
who
got
are.
numbers, 1, 2, 3.
Okay, so the
4,
people now on Zoom could also see it.
Thank
Well,
These
you.
are all commentaries.
Number one is where the Mishnah is, and the small Gimel Mem in the middle, that's where the Gemara is. That's the discussion of the Gemara, of the Talmud on the Mishnah. Okay, so the Mishnah that's compiled in 2019,
Oh, that little
the
thing?
Talmud has a discussion on the Mishnah. That's how the Talmud is built. Okay.
I'm sorry, the Mishnah, what is that again? What-
The Mishnah is the book that we talked about last week that was compiled in 2019, and it's in Hebrew, and it's only Jewish law. Okay, it's not like the Talmud that has all these other things in it. It's a
That's
Jewish
Hebrew
law.
date, right?
It's been decided up. It's like the oral Torah that was
Okay.
decided up till the year of 2019.
Hebrew 19, Jewish date 19.
No,
Hours.
219 CE. After. You know,
219, not
AC.
2019.
You inadvertently said 2019, I think.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
So I meant 219.
219.
The year 219.
2,
Okay.
1, 9.
Compiled in,
Yeah, sorry about that.
okay, compiled in.
219.
219. Yes.
Is there Yerushalmi Talmud?
Yeah, we're going to touch about that in a moment. Okay. Now look back here. Sometimes the word Talmud may only refer to the Gemara. Okay, the Aramaic part.
Oh.
So when I say Talmud, it could be two meanings. One, that it's the Mishnah and the Gemara. Okay, but sometimes it's just the Gemara. That's a technicality. It's like don't get stuck up on that. Okay, this text is made up of 63 tractates. Okay. Okay, here's, for example, one of them. Okay. Some of the tractates, this is Psachim, okay, the one I talked about last week that has 10 chapters about Passover. Okay. Some of them are shorter tractates, so there would be 2 or 3 or maybe even 4 in one volume like that. It would kind of like be this size in this edition. Okay. I'm afraid to get a lot of dust on me because I don't know when the last part was. Okay. Okay, but this, for example, okay, is a Talmud page, very similar to the page I gave you, right?
Yeah.
And
Recognize it.
okay, and here at the bottom we have the Gemara, the Gimel Mem, and above it is the Mishnah that is symbolized like this.
Memnon.
Mem Taf Nun, yeah. Okay, so
But the top is the continuation from the previous page.
yeah, the pages, there's no, this is part of the problem is that there are no punctuation and there's no, dots, question marks,
And there's no
or anything
pictures.
like that. Not a lot, yeah. Very, very, very,
You want the sacrifice of Isaac to be?
yeah.
Want to see the bush on
Okay.
fire or whatever.
Rabbi, you said.
But this is what they study in the yeshivas and everywhere. But there are other things I'll show you. Oh, I forgot to bring my book.
You said that everybody is on the same page all over the world, right?
Only for this program.
For this project, yeah,
Oh,
for the daily page, yeah.
okay, so how long does one spend on this daily page?
I spend 20 minutes,
Oh, so that would
30
take
minutes,
care of one page.
Two-sided.
two-sided, yeah.
Yeah.
If you're a beginner, it might take a little bit longer. But also, I made a conscious decision that I won't, dive too much into every detail, because then it would take me like an hour or
But if
an
you
hour and
do
a
it
half, and then I won't be able to do it.
If you do it in
It'll be
English, I mean, in English on Google, you're looking at 20 minutes of reading unless you're ADD and you have to go off and figure out.
Yeah.
I'm
Okay,
ADD, that's
so,
what I'm asking.
so what are the tractates? We talked about last week. Okay, we all know what the tractates of the Mishnah are, and how do we know that? Because these are the 6 orders. Okay, right? We said Shashi Doi Mishnah, right? The 6 orders of the Mishnah, and it's Zra'im. It has 11 tractates, Moed 12, Nashim 7, Nezikin damages 10, Kodashin holy things 11, Taharot 12, which is purities, and so if you add all of these, they would probably come up to 63. Okay. The language of the Talmud is Jewish Babylonian Aramaic. I'll touch in a moment about the Jerusalem Talmud, okay, which is a different Aramaic dialect. The Talmudic tradition emerged and was compiled between the destruction of the Second Temple in 70 CE and the Arab conquest in the early 7th century. Okay, so that's like, I said 550. I guess there's some opinions that also, bring it even later to the beginning of the 7th century. The word Talmud commonly refers to the Babylonian Talmud, the Talmud Bavli, and not the earlier Jerusalem Talmud, which is Talmud Yerushalmi. I'll talk about that in a moment. Okay. Unlike the Western Aramaic dialect of the Jerusalem Talmud, the Babylonian Talmud has a Babylonian Aramaic Talmud, a dialect. The Jerusalem Talmud is also more fragmentary and difficult to read due to a less complete reactional process. Okay, the Jerusalem Talmud was really abrupted in the middle of its kind of compilation around the year 350 for political reasons in Israel. Rabbis had to flee and leave as they were kind of like busy in the whole Talmud compilation. And therefore it's much more fragmented, and we don't have like a Talmud on a lot of the tractates because of that. Discussions in the Babylonian Talmud are more discursive, rambling, rely more on anecdote and argumentation by syllogism and induction, whereas those in the Jerusalem Talmud are more factual and apply argumentation through logical deduction. Okay, so these are also 2 important distinctions between the 2 Talmuds.
It's syllogism, by the way.
Okay, thank you. The Babylonian Talmud is much longer, with about 2.5 million words in total. Proportionally, more Babylonian material is non-legal Agadah, constituting 1/3 of its material compared to 1/6 of the Jerusalem Talmud. Okay, so there's much more legal stuff in the Jerusalem Talmud than in the Babylonian Talmud, which has a lot of, material that it's not non-legal. The one that I said, that's more like ethical code and stories and dreams and philosophy and a lot of things that are not the legal parts. The Babylonian Talmud has received significantly more interest and coverage from commentators because it was passed on from tradition to tradition, and there was no interruption in that transmission. From the moment they started compiling the Talmud or writing it, okay, it's been transmitted from generation to generation without any abruptions. Okay, nothing was cut in the chain of handing it over from generation to generation, as opposed to the Jerusalem Talmud that was abruptly cut around the year 350. It was passed on in a very secret way, and then only around the 11th century does one rabbi even mention it, saying, so we don't even know what happened from the year 350 to the year it was passed on, but we don't know exactly how and when and who passed it, it's like very very vague. And we only have one manuscript. I'm sorry, we don't even have one manuscript of the Jerusalem Talmud. We only have a I'm sorry, we do. We have one manuscript, which is in Leiden. Leiden is in Germany or in Poland? In Germany, right?
Germany.
Leiden is in yeah. Okay, so the only Jerusalem manuscript is there. And as opposed to the Jerusalem, the Babylonian Talmud that has many more manuscripts that have been, around, and it's, it makes that big change between them, and the interest in them. The structure of the Talmud follows that of the Mishnah, divided into 6 orders, which we just talked a moment ago, known as the Shishas Darim or Shas. Okay, Shas is Shin Samech, Shishas Darim. Okay, not the religious party. Okay, of general subject matter, and they're divided into 63 tractate. A tractate is called Masechet, or in plural Masachtot, and it's of more focused subject compilations. So not all tractates have Gemara. Okay, each tractate is divided into chapters. Okay, Prakim, which in singular is a perek, 517 chapters in total, that are both numbered according to the Hebrew alphabet and given names, usually using the first 1 or 2 words in the first Mishnah.
It is in the Netherlands.
Okay, what?
Leiden was in the Netherlands, not Germany.
Oh, in the Netherlands. Yeah, I knew it wasn't in Germany.
It sounded to me like it was Dutch.
Yeah. I now, thank you for reminding me that. A perek, a chapter, may continue over several, up to tens of pages. Each perek will contain several mishnayot. Okay, a mishnah is like the sort of like from the Mishnah. It's like we have like the small Mishnayot that we talked about last week, or here, for example, that it starts from here until it says Mar. That's like one Mishnayah, and then the Talmud will talk about one Mishnayah.
Rabbi, I don't know if you mentioned it, but isn't each section of the Mishnah begin with a word from the Torah? And
From the Mishnah, from the chapter. Yeah, the name of the chapter would be there. Okay, so like the chapter here is called Me'ematai, from when. Okay, so that would be chapter 1 is called Me'ematai. The Gemara, the Talmud, constitutes the commentary portion of the Talmud. The Mishnah and its commentary, the Gemara, together constitute the Talmud. This commentary arises from a long-standing tradition of rabbis analyzing, debating, and discussing the Mishnah ever since it had been published. The rabbis who participated in the process that produced this commentarial tradition are known as the Amoraim. Okay, so we have the Amoraim, and it's also here in the okay, here is the Amoraim, and here is the Tanaim. Okay, Amoraim is for, is like around the year 200 to 600. Okay, and the Tanaim, those are the ones that wrote the Mishnah. They are at the, around the year 219 or leading up to 219. Okay, so sometimes if I say Amoraim, it means the ones that wrote the Talmud. Each discussion is presented in a self-contained edited passage, also known as a sugya. So when we say a sugya in the Talmud, okay, that's a discussion, a passage, discussion, a specific topic. Okay, so the only way to know that, okay, is, for example, you can see 2 dots in the middle, like after where it says the Gemara, you go down, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Okay, there are
Oh,
two
yeah.
dots there. 2 dots in the middle, that's this end of the sugya. So that would be one sugya, one passage that has a discussion.
That's just
On a part of the
before the
Mishnah.
Gamma Mem.
Yeah, the colon.
Yeah,
That's it.
a colon, yeah.
Uh,
Okay.
just before the Gamma Mem.
No,
The
No,
Gimel
no,
Mem,
no.
I mean.
No, go down
No.
from there
farther.
further. Okay. Here, I'll show you here.
Here, Jerry. It's right there.
Okay, it's here. I keep on Zoom. I'm showing you here. It's here.
Yeah,
Um,
I'd say.
okay. You wanted some pictures? Here are some pictures. Much of the Gemara is legal in nature, and each analysis begins with a Mishnaic legal statement. Okay, this is the Mishnaic legal statement. With each sugya, that part here, okay, the statement may be analyzed and compared with other statement, and this process can be framed as an exchange between two, often anonymous, possibly metaphorical, disputants termed the makshan, questioner, and the tautzan, answerer. Okay, so when we will study one day Talmud, so we will see the way it's built is there is like a statement on the Mishnah. The Mishnah says a certain statement, a certain law. So the Gemara is asking, where do they get that from? Why do they say this? Who said so? Okay, they're asking these very strong questions, by the way. They're not accepting the authority of the Mishnah. That's a very Jewish thing, right? They are saying
2 people, 3 times.
Yeah.
what the Mishnah says really contradicts what it says in a different place. What the Mishnah says contradicts the Bible. How dare they? Okay, that's how the Gemara starts. They always start with questions that undermine the Mishnah and make the Mishnah sound, not reliable or mistaken. Okay, that's the way it goes. That's why it's so interesting to study the Talmud, because they're not just giving you, like there's some religions that just tell you this is it, accept this and just do it. Okay, forget about it. Yeah, you grew up like that. Okay,
It's the last one?
yeah.
Yeah.
In Judaism, that won't fly, that won't go. Okay, in Judaism, and we're going to see that in a moment. Okay, they are like, no, this doesn't make sense. But then they bring answers. Like another rabbi would say, no, your question is wrong, or you're asking, the question you're asking is okay. It implies for this situation, but it doesn't imply to this situation, and this is what the Mishnah is talking about. So you didn't get it right. Okay, so they start arguing between themselves, and it builds up. This discussion builds up more and more, and then usually the discussion does not end with any kind of solution. Sometimes they say, okay, we're going to decide this rabbi's right and this rabbi's wrong. Okay, and sometimes they say in this place they do as this rabbi said, and in this place they do as this rabbi said. They don't, it's very rare that they would say, this is the only way to do things.
Yeah, I thought you had said earlier that a lot of the Talmud doesn't really resolve questions.
Right.
They give both sides or multiple sides.
Right. And by the way, that created the opportunity for future generations to come up with their own questions. But I think what happened around the year 550 or 600, whatever, when they felt that this is like just going on and on and on, and we already have kind of like a genre that has grown to such a tremendous way, and we've discussed it so much, we got to kind of like frame it. We need to close it, either because we're repeating ourselves or because we will lose all the information we have from previous years, so we want to kind of like codify it, okay? It's not clear, by the way, why they kind of like stopped it, and but
Aren't they following what happened with the Mishnah? It said, okay, stop, this is it.
No, I think they wanted to do something exactly the opposite. I think they wanted like an ongoing discussion for every generation to come up with their own questions, and that's really what happens over 300-400 years until someone goes, I guess, and says, okay, this is it. Okay, we got such a wonderful way, and everyone now knows the mission. Everyone knows all these things. We need to compile it into something that makes sense, which is still huge, right? You know, we're talking about so much information.
What was Rashi's view on the Talmud? Not the specifics, but kind of in general.
We don't have any introduction by Rashi to the Talmud, so that's a very good question. But Rashi, you know, obviously saw the Talmud as the centerpiece of Jewish life. He wrote a commentary on the entire Talmud. We're going to talk about that in a second
And the
as well.
Maimonides?
Maimonides also saw it as a very authoritative book, but he saw it as also a very dangerous a book for just a commoner to read, because they would get lost and they would never know what the right thing to do is, and therefore he said, "I'll figure it out for you."
That the guy to the perplexed?
Yeah, no, that's a philosophy book.
Oh, okay.
In the Mishneh Torah, okay, his big book, he took out the law out of the Talmud and he said, guys, this is what the Talmud is really telling us. This is what you need to follow. Okay. And then obviously a lot of people were very upset with him, and there are a lot of books about why he's wrong. Okay?
How Jewish.
Yeah. So
Well, times change, that's the whole thing.
Yeah.
This whole thing, if times change and something makes something obsolete in the Talmud, they have more things coming in.
Right. So the Gemara also commonly tries to find the correct biblical basis for a given law in the Mishnah, as well as the logical process that connects the biblical to the Mishnaic tradition. This process was known as Talmud long before the Talmud itself became a text. Okay, this is a very important passage. Okay, the Mishnah, if you remember, I explained that last week, just gives us very clear-cut rules. Okay, it tells us this is what you do, or you know, this is how you do something. But it doesn't tell us where do they get it from. What verse in the Bible are you basing yourself on? Okay, what tradition are you basing yourself on when you say this? There's no proof in a way to doing this. Like you're saying it, and we just need to believe you. And the Talmud is like, we're going to figure out for you where the Mishnah learns this from. We're going to explain to you, or we're going to give you different opinions, that if the Mishnah says you have to do this in a certain way, it's based on this verse in the Torah or this verse in the Torah. The problem is when they don't agree. And this rabbi say, no, it's not based on that verse in the Torah, it's based on this verse in the Torah. And he completely misunderstood it. And then they would ask, okay, if you base it on this verse in the Torah, okay, and not on that verse in the Torah, what do you do with the verse that you don't base it on? What is that? What does that come from? What does that come to teach you? If it doesn't teach you what I said, it teaches you. So it's like it builds up. It's a very legalistic also discussion many times, trying to figure out how do I relate? Because every verse in the Torah matters. Every word in the Mishnah or in the Torah matters. We have to have a meaning for each of them, and it all has to make sense at the end of the day. Okay, so it's a very convoluted discussion in many ways.
So the Mishnah talked about the Maccabees and Hanukkah. Is there a book in the Talmud, like there is for Passover, about Hanukkah?
Okay, so there's no tractate on Hanukkah. The only discussion on Hanukkah is actually in the tractate that talks about Shabbat and the laws of Shabbat. And it's on chapter 2. It talks about the laws of what candles can you light on Shabbat? What kind of materials can you light Shabbat candles with? Okay, and
That's in the Talmud.
In the Talmud. And then at a certain point, when they talk about the materials that you could light Shabbat candles with, they're like, oh, we're talking about candles? Oh, we also light candles on Hanukkah. Let's talk about what kind of candles can you light on Hanukkah, what material you could use for Hanukkah candles. And And then they talk about, oh, we mentioned Hanukkah, we should really talk about what is Hanukkah, okay? And that's how it works, right? We said like in a very associative way, it's like eclectic. Oh, we talked about this, let's talk about this, let's talk about this. Or there's like another example, when your camel goes into the city, and the streets of the cities were very narrow, and the camel's now loaded with lots of cotton on it. Okay, piles of cotton are loaded on the camel, and the camel now turns around. Okay, and there's a fire that starts because the camel kind of like knocks off a candle, okay, that's lit in one of the windows. Okay, someone lit a candle for to have light on the street or in their house or something like that. The window was open, the camel gets to, and then there's a fire. Who's to blame?
Camel.
So then camel. Is it the owner of the camel or the person that lit
The candle.
the candle? Okay, so it's the person that lit the candle, okay, needs to know that camels go into the city very careful, okay, except for one time in the year, okay, which is like happens for 8 days, and then the camel owner is responsible, which would be Hanukkah. Why would the camel owner be responsible?
Should have known it was
They know
Hanukkah
it's for
It's Hanukkah. He knows their candles lids,
in the
okay,
windows.
and you have to put them at the window, right? That's the obligation of Hanukkah, is put the Hanukkah candles, okay? So then it's the owner's responsibility, the camel owner, because he needs to be more careful. We talked about the camel hitting. So now let's talk about Hanukkah and why do we light 8 days, etc. And that's how the Talmud. And now
That's where they bring in from all.
yeah, and then they start talking about Hanukkah, etc. Okay.
Did that particular,
Can you just close that, please?
did that particular section lead to a discussion about putting out the fire to save a life?
I'm sorry. Could you repeat that?
Okay, so that section with the
Can you close the door?
yeah.
This is very distracting.
The section that he's responsible for the fire, but did that lead also to discussion about putting out the fire because to save a life, or is that somewhere else?
No, that's somewhere else.
Okay.
Okay. Everyone has to be part of,
Putting out the
extinguishing,
fire.
Putting out the fire. Okay. Okay. So the Gemara also commonly tries. Oh, okay. No, I said that. Okay, so that's explaining that part. Legal interpretation. One area of Talmudic scholarship developed out of the need to ascertain the halacha. Ascertain the halacha, Jewish rabbinical law. So as I said, there's a lot of Jewish law inside the Talmud, and this is the only way we know what to do in Judaism is if we study the Talmud. If we would not study the Talmud, we would not know Jewish law. So that's really the essence of the Talmud, is to understand Jewish law. So early commentators such as Isaac Alfasi, who lived in North Africa, okay, from 1013 to 1103, attempted to extract and determine the binding legal opinions from the vast corpus of the Talmud. Alfasi's work was highly influential, attracted several commentators in its own right, and later served as a basis for the creation of halachic codes. So this is very important, because even though the Talmud is compiled in the 6th, 7th century, okay, realizing that it's the best source for Jewish law, and if you kind of like eliminate all the other parts that are not Jewish law, you're left with a book on Jewish law. But it's not consistent. There's like bunch here and bunch there, and it's like it's all over. So Rabbi Alfasi okay, realize I need to take the Talmud and go page by page and just leave the parts that are not, just leave the parts that are Jewish law, and all the parts that are not Jewish law, I'll rewrite the book. And that's what he does, okay? And every Talmud book, okay, has the 10 chapters, for example, that I said, and then you open it, and then there are different commentators here, okay? These are like different commentaries on the Talmud. More commentators, many commentators, okay? And so it's like very small writing, you need very good glasses, okay?
So it takes a long time to study.
Chapter after chapter, okay? And then, oh, what is this? The same thing? No, this is Rabbi Alfasi's work. Is here in the middle. This is him taking just the legal parts, okay? And why is there places around him? Because people don't agree with him, okay? So they're like different, commentators around him, okay? And these would like be of different centuries, okay? There would be, this is from France. This is the Ramban from France. This is from Germany. I mean, there's just all over commentaries just on his work of compilation. Okay, and then what the Rambam does, Maimonides does, he's the first one, and we'll talk about him later because he deserves his own lesson or two. He's the one that says we need to do it according to topics. Okay, he's the first one that comes up with this more like doing like a catalog, okay, like an index in that sense.
Organized.
Right?
Oh, okay. I did not know that you're here. By the way, I have a question, Rabbi, very, very question. May I ask?
Yeah.
You said now that Talmud, only from Talmud, we know like laws, Jewish law. But what about 613 commandments in Torah? Isn't this law?
Well, no, not exactly. I'll explain that when we get to Sefer Chinuch, the Book of Education. These are not exactly laws. These are laws that are in the Bible, and they appear in the Talmud in a different form. Really, what's binding is the laws that are in the Talmud. Okay.
This is binding, but Lord, which came from source, the first source, this is Torah, everything from Torah.
Yeah, so the laws are in the Talmud, but that we follow the laws that are in the Talmud. We don't just read it from the Bible. If we read it in the Bible, we don't have the context, we don't have the understanding of things, right? You remember when I talked about a long time ago about the laws that are the Rabbanan and the laws that are Deoraita. I'll refer you to that lesson.
Well, if you took divorce, you got one short sentence in the Bible.
Yeah, exactly. And there's like, exactly. So even, so there's like divorce, there's like a whole thing like this about divorce. And in the Bible, it's just one verse. So you can't extract anything from the Bible on that. Okay, you have to go into the Talmud to understand all the different laws.
And the Torah was written for agricultural civilization, not so much for
no, it's not just that. It's just that there's, as I said last time, there's like the oral Torah that goes along with the written Torah. So the Torah might have one verse because they know there's like a whole oral Torah. So there's like one verse. The verse says when a man wants to divorce a woman, he needs to write a document to her. Okay, but then the rabbis need to decide, what does it mean he wants to divorce her? How does it happen? How, does she need to agree as well? How does he hand it over to her? How is it supposed to be written? What information is written in that document? Do we need witnesses? Who could be a witness? There are a lot of questions that go on and on about the rabbinic court. It's like there needs to be a court. There's so many questions that could come up. that we know that have to do with divorce, dividing up the
Estate.
the estate, the children. So many questions come up, and those are addressed in the Talmud because the Torah doesn't mention them at all. Okay, the last part I wanted to mention today. No, you know what? I'll do that next week. I think we're gonna continue here next week. Okay, because and then so please bring me back these. Okay, and we're gonna do this next week.